Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem, and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Menachos Daf Lamed Dalid. We begin 4 lines off the top of the Amud back to halachos of mezuzah. Itma we have learned. Lul is a passageway between the floors. So you have this sort of opening in the ceiling, and a staircase running from the bottom floor up to the second floor. Pasuach, so it's an opening min habayis between the ground floor, laliyah, to the second floor. And you have a staircase running through it. And as Rashi explains, he illustrates it as follows. In order to facilitate privacy between the residents of the first floor and the residents of the second floor, so the staircase was not an open, completely open and accessible staircase. So back on the main floor, as the staircase comes down, it is surrounded, it is enclosed with mechitzes, and that enclosure has a door, which can be locked and unlocked by the residents of the main floor to maintain their privacy. And likewise, up on the next floor, when you climb up the stair, when you reach the second floor, again, it's not just open and accessible; it is surrounded, it is enclosed in an enclosure with a door. And this is to ensure the privacy of the upper floor residents. So what about mezuzah? In those doorways, upstairs and downstairs. Amar Rav Huna, look, if it has just one enclosure with one doorway, chayav b'mezuzah achas, then you need one mezuzah. If it has both enclosures, upstairs and downstairs, 2 mezuzahs, chayav b'shtei mezuzahs. Amar Rav Papa shmamna b'Rav Huna. Based on this halacha, we can learn that in Druna, you have this room, this lay arba bavi, which has 4 doorways. Bavi is a doorway like bava kama, bava mitzvah, gateway, right? The first gateway, the second gateway. So if you have 4 doors in a room, 4 mezuzahs, chayav arba mezuzahs. Well, pshita, obviously, why would you think otherwise? The point is, afagav de ragel b'chad. Suppose, initially, it had 4 doors, but eventually people got accustomed to using just this one door. Ragel b'chad. Still, it doesn't diminish from the status of the other doorways, and all need a mezuzah. Just like over here by the staircase. Every door that accesses that staircase needs a mezuzah. Rashi asked a question because we had a story back on Daf Lamed Gimel yesterday regarding the shul over there, and the Gemara spoke about the mezuzah only being on the rugel, the more commonly used doorways. He says that's different because there it's one that's used, one that's not used, so it's batal to the one that's used. Or he says another reason is because over there the unused one was only meant for loy levade, for himself, for one person, so that becomes sort of secondary to the other one, which is the more commonly used. But here it was 4 doors on the room, all meant for proper use, all meant to be used by the same amount of. So although as time went on, the usage of the 3 doors sort of dwindled, that doesn't take away from their status. Their doors, they require mezuzah. Amar Meimar. Hi pischa da akarna. You have a doorway in the corner. So you have a room, 4 walls, and at the corner you have sort of a opening, so one wall doesn't reach the end, nor does the other one. You have sort of an opening, and this Pesach is sort of at a diagonal between both walls. Chayv mezuzah, needs a mezuzah. Amalei Rav Ashi, he asked Lameimar, what do you mean? Well, you need posts. Where are the posts? Here is a wall that's sort of unfinished, and likewise over here, where's the post to the actual doorway? Well, let's lay B'tzimon, Amalei Adi, these, the ends of the walls, B'tzimi, serve as posts to the doorway, even though they weren't really constructed specifically for. Rav Papa came to visit Mar Shmuel's home. Ikla be Mar Shmuel. Chaza u'pisal, so he notices this the doorway, it only had a post on the left side. So the right side was sort of just a hinge hanging in the middle of nowhere. was like a peg, in the ground, like an axis, but it didn't really have a post to the right, only on the left. He made a mezuzah for this doorway. Amar Leis, he says to him, Keman ki Rav Meir? Are you going with Rav Meir's shita that says that only one post is sufficient to require a mezuzah? Emo de Amar Rav Meir Rav Meir only requires a mezuzah if the post is on the right of the doorway. Mismael mi'amar, but in this case where the post is only on the left, he never requires a mezuzah for that type of configuration. So again, even the Rav Meir says one post is enough, but it has to be on the right side. The right as you enter, right? Mahi, where do we find this machlek? It's a sanya. Pasuk says, affix a mezuzah, al mezuzah is beisecha. We learn beisecha means bi'ascha. As you enter mina yamin on the right side. Ato ima mina yamin, you're saying that it's the right side. In elam is smile, perhaps in the left is where you put the mezuzah. Tamalayma beisecha. Now, how do you learn from beisecha that it's meant to be to the right? My Talmud, where do you see that from the word beisecha? Amar Rabba, derech bi'ascha. As you enter. Now, as you enter means on your right. Mina yamin. Why? Why is right synonymous with entry? Look, the akar inish kari, because when a person is about to enter a home and he lifts his foot, which foot do you lift? The right foot, the stronger foot. Kari di yamina. Akash inish kari di yamina akar. He lifts his right, so the right is the one that enters first. So when we speak about the act of entry, beisecha bi'ascha, as you're entering, means to the right. Now some point out that even a lefty, even if a person's accustomed to, but that's the way it's established. The mezuzah is meant to protect the home, and we apply the right, the principle of yamin, regardless of whether you yourself as a person uses your left. So it works with the prevalent practice. Rav Shmuel Bar. So bottom line is, right is critical to the chiyuv of mezuzah, and likewise, only if it has a post on the right is it appropriate for the affixation of a mezuzah. Rav Shmuel Bar Acha Kamei Papa, he quoted Mishmei the Rava Barula. Omar, he says, I'll bring you a raya that right side is synonymous with entry. He made the collection for the building, a maintenance fund. So he took a pushka, arayin echad, this container, he made a hole to insert the money. And where did he put it? In the Beis HaMikdash, to the right of the Mizbeach, as you enter. Apparently entry is synonymous with right side. So as you enter, the right side is what you encounter first. That's considered the point of entry, and that's where he placed the pushka for the money. Where do we find Rav Meir allowing one post to necessitate a mezuzah? The sanya. You have a room with just one post. Rav Meir mechayev mezuzah. He says it's chayev with in a mezuzah. They say no pater. My time to Rabbanan. Why do Rabbanan require two posts for a mezuzah? Look, the pasuk says "Usaftam al mezuzais" on both posts. Meaning you have to have two posts to facilitate a mezuzah. Mezuzah is ksiv. My time to Rav Meir. What about Rav Meir? The sanya mezuzais, which is plural shamani miut mezuzah shtain, that will tell you at least two. Plural means two. But then why does the Torah repeat the same phrase mezuzais in the second parsha, at the end of Vayim Shemaya? Why the repetition? Shein Tamalayim, it's unnecessary. Have a riboy, acha riboy. We have an expansive term followed by another one, repetition. And the rule is ve'ein riba acha riboy. We have an inclusionary term followed by another one, actually has the opposite effect. Tells you, no, don't be marab, don't expand. It's coming to minimize and to teach you miyato yakosu mezuzah achas. They're very small. Torah says one mezuzah is enough to be chayiv in a mezuzah. One post. I have a different proof. Take a look at the pasuk by Karban Pesach in Mitzrayim. Apply the blood on the mashkev, on the top post, and on the two side posts. Why the number 2? If it says mezuzah is plural, evidently it's 2. What's the point of adding the number 2? This is giving us a precedent. The term mezuzah is a term. Typically it's 2 posts, but doesn't necessarily mean 2 posts. It can mean 1 as well. Unless it has the number 2 affixed to it. But otherwise, just mezuzah on its own could mean 1. 1 post is enough. That is Reb Meir's source. Now, how do you apply mezuzah? Do you write directly on the posts? Perhaps you write it straight onto the stone posts. That can't be so. Why? We have a Gzeira Shava. Nemar kan ksiva. It says uchsavtam over here by mezuzah. But ksiva, we have the word ksiva elsewhere. By the get of an isha, a kosavlo, sefer creases. Just like over there, it's meant to be on a writable item, a sefer, a parchment, etc. Ma'alahalan ala sefer, Afkan here as well. Not on the stone wall, ala sefer, it's meant to be on a scroll. Or perhaps take a different approach and connect to a different pasuk and allow writing it directly on the stone wall. Namar kan ksiva, but namar han ksiva, we have the word ksiva here, and also over there by Yeshua when they wrote the Torah on the stone mizbeach. Ma'alahalan ala avonim, afkan avonim, just like over there directly on the stones here as well. Nearly midayma. Okay, so we have a choice compared to the get of an isha, and compared to the recording of the Torah on the stone mizbeach. Okay, nearly midayma. Let's evaluate. What's a fairer, what's a more comparable comparison? Done in ksiva neges l'doros. We'd rather compare the writing of a mezuzah, which is generational for all times, miksiva neges l'doros from a get, which is also for all times. So that's similar. As opposed to the mizbeach, vein done in ksiva neges l'doros. We can't learn a mezuzah which is applicable at all times. Miksiva she'en neges l'doros from the mizbeach, which was only a one-time event. We have another source. The ksiva is meant to be on a scroll. We find by the Sefer Eicha that was recorded by Baruch, as dictated by Yirmiyah. Vayemer lehem Baruch. Look, Yirmiyah would dictate to me all these words. When he calls a Sefer, I'd write on the Sefer. So you see, ksiva and Sefer go together. I have a question. I understand that you have this connection, Gzeira Shava, but isn't that sort of contradicting the literal wording of the pasuk, which seems to say they write it directly on the walls? Rahman Amad, the pasuk says al mezuzahs, right on the mezuzahs. You're telling me otherwise. About the amras ksiva, we have a Gzeira Shava. I mean, the Torah is telling you otherwise. The answer is, let's take a closer look at the words of the Torah here as well. We'll see it's not so. Amakro chsav tam al mezuzahs. Write the words of the Shema. Tam, complete, properly recorded. You can't properly ink a stone. It doesn't hold, it's not durable. Ksiva tama. Write it properly on a scroll, on a cloth, and then put it on the mezuzah. Okay? So if this is a proper source, why do we need the Gzeira Shava? Why don't you have a chsav tam? At first on a scroll and then on the wall. Why do we need the Gzeira Shava? Ilav Gzeira Shava. The answer is if not for the Gzeira Shava. Telling us that you meant to record it on a scroll, I would say, well, uchsavtam, I can fulfill that even by doing it on the stone. You know why? Engrave it on the stone. That's durable. That's permanent. That's a proper ksiva tama. Do it like that, and then look, asif, and then affix that stone onto the wall, onto the post. Mashma, the point is no. We have the Gzeira Shava, which says, look, it's got to be on a scroll. It's got to be on the parchment. So we need both sources, explains Taisus. To write it directly on the with ink on the stone, that's not ksiva tama. Okay, but maybe engrave it. That's why we go to the Gzeira Shava, to enlighten us that the proper ksiva is meant to be on a parchment, as we do. Continues the Gemara. Arba parsha shebetfilin ma'akvos u'asu. Okay, so the Mishnah says all the 4 parshas, the 4 sections that you write in the tefillin, are critical for each other, meaning it's one package. You miss even just one ksav, one letter. It invalidates the entire thing. Well, obviously, pshita, it's self-evident. If you need it all, you need it all. Amar Vidam Rav. Of course, all letters are there. We're speaking that even a little fragment of a yud, so more or less looks like a yud, but it's missing a leg, the right leg or the left leg. The point here is to tell you even the point of the yud is me'akiv. Well, that's also evident. It's also obvious. Without it, you don't have a yud. The point is that even if the entire yud is there, but it's not encased in parchment. We have another halacha. Any letter who doesn't have gevil, the parchment, mukavla, it's not surrounded, completely surrounded on all 4 sides with parchment. Let's say the letter is touching the next one, or it's at the edge of the page. Pesula. That's the point of the Mishnah. You need every letter in its full configuration, fully encased in the parchment. Tana Rabbanan. Okay, so we're over to Amid Beis, Tana Rabbanan. How many parshas do we have in the tefillin? So the pasuk describing the tefillin uses a lashon l'tei tafos. Now, interestingly, twice it's without a vav. It can be read lashon yochad singular l'tatfas. Once it has a vav and it's read plural l'tei tafos. Okay, so we know now that it's 4. Because although we read them all the same way with tafos, but in terms of spelling, if we focus on the spelling, it's single, and then we have double, 1, 1, and 2, a total of 4. Tanarabon to tafos, that's a tafos, which can be read as tatfas. And then we have l'tei tafos, which certainly means 2, harakan dalid. A total of 4 parshas, 4 sections, 4 parshas in the tefillin. I have a different source. The word itself indicates 4. Take the word tatfas and split into 2. 2 and 2. Because the letters tes is a word. Tat. In fact, bekatvi, in a place called katvi, refers to the number 2, shtayim. The next part of the word peitov, pas, ba'afrika, in Africa, shtayim, it also means 2. So you have 2 and 2, which is 4. Now the Parshan bring the Eben Shui, the Talmud of the Rashba, is an interesting, fascinating insight into this Gemara. It's in the end of Parshas Noach. He says, we're not looking at foreign languages to learn the halachas of tefillin. He says, rather, all languages really originally derived from Lashon Kodesh. Because by the Dar HaFlaga, it was just one language, and then it was sort of, split and evolved in different languages. But the Chachamim had a Kabbalah. They knew that in some language they still retained some elements of Lashon Kodesh. So this was one of those examples. They knew that in the Katvi, the word Tat means 2 because in Lashon HaKodesh it means 2. So they retained an element of Lashon HaKodesh within their language. And likewise, Pat and Afriki. And that's what Torah meant when it says Taitafa is 2 and 2 for 4. Torah Rabbanan. Okay, so you have 4 different parshas, which we know as Shema Yisrael, V'afta, and Vayam Shemaya, Kadesh L'Ka B'char, and Vaya Kiviyacha, right? Those 4 parshas have references to the tefillin, etc. So we have all those 4 parshas in the tefillin. But the question is, is a tefillin meant to be comprised of 4 separate, independently constructed compartments, or tefillin shel rosh, or is it meant to be really one singular entity with 4, sections? Perhaps you write down the 4 parshas on 4 separate, pieces of leather, parchment. Okay, bottom, place them into 4 compartments. Bid dalad oiris, formed with 4 separate pieces of leather. No, it's meant to be one singular tefillin. Ulu zikaron beinei necha, a single zikaron on your head. Zikaron echad amarti lach. I'm instructing you to make one single entity. V'loi beis v'gimel zichronis, as opposed to 2 or 3. Okay, so how do you get 4 compartments if it's just one? Kaismal dalad oiris. Okay, you record the 4 parshas on 4 separate parchments. Okay, umanicham dalad batim, insert them into 4 compartments. Bi'orechad, fashioned from one piece of leather. Rashi says you take one piece of leather, you'd run it over a mold which has 4 sort of fingers, 4 protrusions, and slowly it forms into 4 compartments, but it's really one single whole piece of leather. Then you fold over the bottom, you close it up, and you have your tefillin shel rosh. Okay, so now in terms of the parshas, they're meant to be written on 4 separate parchments. Vim kasam boyer echad. Suppose he put all the parshas on one single piece of parchment. V'nicham b'tal batim, but he somehow inserted them to 4 compartments. Rashi explains he would sort of snip between the parshas, a little bit of the parchment to get it into the separate compartment. The bottom would stay, together as one, but the top is snipped so that they can go into separate compartments. That also works yotza. But you have to make sure that there is enough space a proper space between the compartments, so that we see that they're really distinct and separate, despite having been written on the same parchment. That's Rebbe's opinion. You don't have to look for that separate space, the extra spacing. It's okay as long as you insert them separately. But all agree. In this case, you should run some sort of thread, some sort of between the compartments, inside, to set them apart, to make them distinctly separate. So even the Chacham agree, you meant to highlight the separation in this fashion. Tosfos brings that some say you always put something between the parshas, and that's what we do today. We run like between the one more halacha. V'mein charitza nikar psulos. The charetz, the division between the 4 parshas are meant to be visible outside. You have to see the 4 compartments as 4 separate. Even from the outside, meant to see them as separate compartments. Otherwise, it's possible. So how do you proceed writing the tefillin? Tefillah shel yad, koisval arechad. The parshas of the shel yad are written on the same parchment. If you wrote them separately on 4 separate parchments, and rolled them up into one compartment, the shel yad, it also works. We have to make sure that they're connected. You sew them together, or you glue them together. Why? Because they're really meant to be one single entity. The tefillin shel is meant to be one single sign, one single entity. It's just like from the outside, it's one compartment. Everybody sees it as one. Likewise, in the inside, it's meant to be one single piece of parchment. So if you wrote it separately, make sure to connect them. Otherwise, Rashi says when you'll feel the tefillin, it seems like they had soft leather tefillin, you would feel them as 4 separate. You feel the parchments inside as being separate. So you have to make sure that one glued together, sewn together. It's not necessary to sew them together. Rabbi Yehuda, the great one, the great Chacham, would agree to me. Suppose he's short at tefillin shel yad, but he has 2 shel roishes. He should say tefillin shel roish. Difference is that in shel roish there are 4 separate. So in order to make them into one, you just cover the shel roish, which has 4 compartments, with a skin. So now it's sort of encased in one single skin, it becomes one compartment, so that you address that issue. But you haven't yet connected the parshas inside. That seems to be not a problem. Manichan, just use it as a shalyad. What do you mean? Rabbi agrees? Rabbi is the one who says that it has to be glued together on the inside as well. Maida, how could you say he agrees to me? This is the very essence of their machlekes. You have you're trying to use a shalyad, but the parsha is inside are separate. Amar Rava. Apparently, Rabbi changed his mind. Based on Rabbi Yosi's statement here, Rabbi apparently conceded and agreed that as long as it's one on the outside, it's okay. Eini. Well, now we have another technical problem. You're using a shalroish, an extra shalyesh as a shalyad. A shalroish has a higher status of kedusha. You can't just downgrade it because it has most of the Shem Hashem, right? The Shem Hashem Shin Dalad Yud, right? Shakai is mostly on the shalroish. The Shin is on the bayis itself, right? The Dalad is in the kesher shal tefillin on the back of the head, right? And the Yud is on the Shalom Shal Yad, with the as the Kesher connects to the Tefillin there. So how could you take the Shal Rosh, which has a higher level of Kedusha, and use it as Shal Yad? Any V'Shalach Chanani sent to Halach Meshmei Rav Yochanan and Rav Yochanan. Tefillin Shal Yad, a Tefillin Shal Yad, you can upgrade as a Shal Rosh if necessary. Or it's nice a Shal Rosh. But not the other way of a Shal Rosh. You can use a Shal Rosh for a Shal Yad purpose. You can't take something which has a higher level of Kedusha and downgrade it. The Kashi answer is Habak Tikta. The Shalosh has already been used, then the Kedusha has been activated and you can't downgrade it. Habachadatosa, but if it's a brand new one, you could. Now, according to the Shita that holds that simply designating takes effect, thus, now in this case, even if it's new, you can't downgrade unless you actually conditioned. You made it tonight, when you made it, look, I'm going to use it either way. And then it's okay to switch them. Oh, Tanu Rabbanon, here comes the world famous machlekes regarding the sequence, the order of the parshas in the tefillin. Machlekes between Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam, right? Tanu Rabbanon, Ketzad Sidron. What is the proper way of ordering, of sequencing the parshas in the tefillin? So we have Kadesh Li, we have V'hoyek V'yacha, Miyamin, that's to the right, and then we have Shema and V'hoyem Shemaya to the left, Mismoil. Okay, so let's say if you picture the midpoint of the person's head, right? So the right side would be Kadesh V'hoya, and then on the left Shema V'hoyim Shemaya. Vatani Ifcha, we have a brayso which says do it the other way around. Ifcha Mabai, it depends from which side we're looking at it. Lo kasher kan mi minishal koirei, kan mi minishal maniach. When the brayso says it's Kadesh V'hoya Shema V'hoyim Shemaya, that's mimine shel koirei. That's the reader, so to speak, the person who's standing in front of the fellow wearing the tefillin. He's sort of reading the parsha, so to speak, right? So from his angle, it's Kadesh Li V'hoyek V'yacha Shema V'hoyim Shemaya, because that's the way it's sequenced in the Torah, right? First comes Kadesh, back in Shemois, etc., etc. Okay, so that's when you're looking at it from the Kairei's perspective, from his right to left. Kan miminishal maniach, the brayso which puts it the other way around, is looking at the tefillin from the perspective of the maniach, the person wearing the tefillin. So he's looking at it from the other side. So by him, right to left would be the opposite. Would be vayim shemaya, shema. He's working his way back. But in terms of the kairei, again, the person who's standing in front of the person wearing, he's sort of reading the parshas. Consider it's meant to be the way they're sequenced in the Torah, which is Kadesh, V'yacha, Shema, V'yim Shemaya. Actually, that's Rashi's approach. Rabbi Nahum has a different approach. He says, when the Brayso says Mismoya from the left, it means that you start from the far left. So the person who's the kairei watching, right, from the front, so right to left would be Kadesh, V'yach, and then Mismoil, you switch over to left to right. So the far left would be Shema, and then over to the right of that is V'yim Shemaya. So you have the two V'hoyas in the middle. V'yach, V'yim Shemaya. That's Rabbi Tam's approach. He agrees that when you write the tefillin, the Sefer has to write them in order the way they're in the Torah. But in terms of placing them in the tefillin, this is the way you do it. Big machlokes, the prevalent shitas like Rashi. In fact, they say there was an old pair of tefillin that was found in the Ma'or Yecheskel and Navi right outside Yerushalayim. That was like Rashi's sequence. But Shulchan Aruch brings the Reish Hamayim should put on both, and only one who is muchzak b'chasidus, person who is known to be a righteous person. Otherwise, it appears like haughtiness. No, kol echad yaseh kimin hagei. Okay, so brief recap of today's daf. We discussed the halachas of mezuzah. We have the entrance. We have the staircase with the 2 entries, 2 mezuzahs. Machlekes, whether we need 2 posts or just 1 post is enough according to Rav Meir. Either way, the mezuzah is meant to be on the right of the entry. You write it on a parchment, then place it on the mezuzahs. You don't actually write it on the post itself. All the letters have to be in place, encased by parchment. We have 4 separate parshas, and the shalosh that pray separately in 4 separate compartments. The shalyad are 1 unit in 1 bias. We learned about upgrading, downgrading tefillins, and about the sequence of the parshas. All the best to you, and atzlacha rabbah.